In this video, we'll talk about the cardiac embryology. The human heart starts to develop in the third week of embryonic life. The cardiac progenitor cells are developed from the mesodermal layer. Now, the formation of the heart happens in 4 stages. First, you have the tubular heart formation. Then you have heart looping, septation, and conotruncal septation. Now, conotruncal septation is where you have the formation of a spiral septum which divides the truncus into aortic and pulmonary portions. So, by the 20th day, you have the formation of 2 endocardial tubes which will merge to form a single endocardial tube. And by the 22nd day, you will have a single endocardial tube. Now, the endocardial tube, it is a 3-layered structure. You have the innermost layer which will form the future endocardium. You have a middle layer which is also called the cardiac jelly, which will help in the formation of septums. Then you have the outer layer which is the myoepicardial mantle, which will form the future myocardium. So apart from this, there are a series of constrictions which give the tube such a shape, and it can be further divided into 4 parts. So now these parts will later form parts of the future heart. It will transform into parts of the future heart. So you have the bulbus cordis, primitive ventricle, primitive atrium, and the sinus venosus. The bulbus cordis can be further divided into 3 parts. You have the truncus arteriosus, which will transform into the ascending aorta and pulmonary trunk. Then you have the conus, which will form the outflow portions of the ventricles. This 1/3 of the bulbus cordis will form the right ventricle. So now the primitive ventricle will form the left ventricle, and the primitive atrium will form the future right atrium and the left atrium. Now you have the sinus venosus. The sinus venosus has a body. It has a right horn and a left horn and branches. So the right horn has the right common cardinal vein, the right umbilical vein, and the right white line vein. Similarly, you have the branches of the left horn, which are left common cardinal vein, the left umbilical vein, and the left white line vein. So now what happens to the branches are that the right common cardinal vein will be the future superior vena cava. The right umbilical vein will get regressed, and the right white line vein will form the inferior vena cava. Similarly, on the left side, the left white line vein and the left common cardinal vein will get regressed, but the left umbilical vein will remain as it is. So now the horns, the left horn will get regressed, and whatever the portion which is remaining will form the coronary sinus. The right horn will get absorbed into the primitive atrium, and it will form the posterior part of the right atrium in the future. So now in this you have the constrictions. These constrictions, this one is the bulboventricular sulcus. The bulboventricular sulcus will later form the intraventricular foramen, which will again form later, it will form the intraventricular septum. This is the AV canal, which will form the tricuspid and the mitral orifices, and that's it. So now this is the first stage where you have the formation of a tubular heart. Now the second stage. The second stage is called the looping of the heart. So what happens in the looping of the heart is that basically all these changes which happens to the tubular heart happens within a limited space of the pericardium. So because of this, the tubular heart will undergo a series of twists and turns, which is called the looping of the heart. So you have 2 kinds of looping, R loop and L loop, which is the right looping and the left looping. So now by the 24th day, once the looping process is over, you will have a structure like this. So that is the second stage. Third stage is septation. So what happens in septations is that the fusion of the endocardial cushions. That is, endocardial cushions is otherwise called as the cardiac jelly, which is the middle layer of the endocardial tube. So this middle layer, which will undergo a series of fusion to form the septums. So by the 35th day, you will have a structure which is like this, and it will have 4 distinguished chambers with its septums. So now that is the end of third stage. Fourth stage is called the conotruncal septation, or the formation of a spiral septum. That is, you will have a spiral septum formation where it will divide the truncus. That is, the truncus arteriosus will get divided by the spiral septum into portions of ascending aorta and pulmonary trunk. So, and it will also form the ridges for the communication with the respective chambers. So this is the end of formation of a heart, and by the 50th day you have a heart with its structure similar to that of an adult heart. So this is all about embryology.